In the previous video, we got our application running by using activity instead of action bar activity. And that turned out to be a good choice because action bar activity requires the app compatibility package, which is part of the SDK. So basically, you use action bar activity if you want to maintain backwards compatibility to earlier versions of the Android operating system before version 14. Whereas if you want to use a more modern, target a more modern version of the operating system, then you can just use activity. But let's go ahead and take a look at how to create the application using the application compatibility library, because there are a couple of things that are instructive in the process. And the first thing that we're going to do is create a new project. And I'm going to use the Android create project command the same way as we did in one of the first videos. But this time, instead of, I'm going to have to use this command a couple of times. So instead of having to type the whole path each time, I'm going to add the path to where the Android executable lives. And then I'll only have to type Android create project and so on. So the Android executable lives in same place the SDK is installed. Users, mark, app data, local, Android, SDK. And then there's a tools menu inside of here that has the Android executable. I'm going to right click, select properties, grab a copy of this path, and then I'm going to right click on computer, properties, advanced system settings, environment variables, and I'm going to edit my path. And I'm just going to add that new path to the beginning, semicolon, and then now when I create a new command window, I should just be able to say Android create and so on. So let's create a command shell and we'll try it out. So Android-H, good. So this gives me help on the commands that are available in Android. And we've used it before to list the target platforms. And you can also use it to list any virtual devices you have installed. You can create new projects, create test projects, create library projects, and update the Android debug bridge or the software development kit. So let me go to my Android projects directory. And I've deleted the old stuff, and so I'm going to create a new project. Now, in order to get instructions on creating a new project, I can say Android-H create project, and this will give me help on creating a project. So here it's showing me what the options are, and it includes, well, let's just go ahead and start filling it in. So Android create project, and then the name of the project is going to be, just going to call it command line. And then we need a name of a default activity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to match the version of the program that we did in Android Studio as closely as possible, because I'm just going to copy and paste code between the two rather than having to type it for a third time. So the main activity was named main activity in the Android Studio version, so that's what I'm going to use here as well. And then the package is going to be my com.example.mark, and then that part all matches the name from Android Studio. And this one I'm going to call command line. And then I don't need a Gradle version because I'm not going to be using Gradle here. The target is going to be Android-21, which you can get by executing Android list targets. And then the path is going to be the new project folder I create under Android projects. So that's going to be command line as well. All right, so let's go ahead and execute that. And it went ahead and created my new project folder. Let me go to my projects folder, see Android projects, so new command line folder, and it created all of this stuff. Now, let me show you something useful about Android Studio. So here's the view that we've been looking at, and you'll notice that this directory structure doesn't actually match the same directory structure that we have in the actual folder. What we can do, though, is under this drop-down menu here, we can view the project as a project, and this will show us the actual file structure that underlies the project, which is a little bit better mapping to what we're doing inside of File Explorer. So let's go ahead and just copy some stuff over from our Android Studio version of my first app. And let's start with the Android manifest. So I'm going to edit this with Notepad, and I'm also going to go to the Android manifest here in my first project. And let me copy and paste this whole thing. So I've just replaced the old Android manifest with the one from my first app. This one's going to be called command line. And everything else up to here should be the same. So save that. And then the source folder, com, example, mark, command line, I'm going to copy both the main activity and display message activity from the Android Studio version. It's just Java code, so we've written that already. All right, and let's pop this open in Notepad. And so this android.support.v7, this is where the AppCompat stuff lives. So v7.app.actionBarActivity. This was actually the import that we needed. But it turns out that you have to do something extra, and we'll see what that is in a few minutes. So I'm going to change this extra message to be com.example.mark.command-line so that it matches my current application. And I think all the rest of this is okay for now. And let's go ahead and also look at this display message activity. Oh, the package should be my command line, or it should be just command line here as well. Command line and command line. Great, so now those packages match. And the rest of this looks good. All right, so we have our Java source. Now we need some resources, and the strings and styles, I'm just going to copy both of these, and I'm going to go to my resources folder and values, and just paste those in. All right, so now what I have for strings is all of this stuff, and I'm going to change the title to command line app and leave everything else the same. And then in styles, it's using theme, AppCompat, light, dark, action bar. This is just a look and feel of the app, and you have a number of different choices. We won't look at that just yet, though. And let's go ahead and copy the menus folder as well. So action bars have menus, and this is where the menus are declared. So I'm selecting the folder and copying this time. And now I'm going to go to the resource folder and paste that whole folder in. And what we get is basically a menu for menu main and a menu for display message. We'll worry about the actual contents later on, but there's not a whole lot in here for now. And same thing for the display message menu. Okay. So we can actually try building at this point. It won't work, but we can try it and see what it does. So CD to CMD line, and we're going to use ant debug to build the debug version of the app. All right, so the first error that we got is error retrieving parent for item, no resources found that match the given name, theme, AppCompat, light, dark action bar. And this has to do with the application compatibility package I was talking about before. Now, the application compatibility package is installed as part of the SDK. Let's go to the SDK manager and take a look at where that is. So here's the SDK manager. I could also have launched that from the command line. All right, so I probably have some additional stuff that you don't have installed at this point, but the important part is down at the bottom under extras, and you'll note that there's something called Android Support Library. This is the one that you want to have installed, and I have it installed. So if you haven't installed it yet, go ahead and click that box and hit Install Packages, and it may take a while to install. Now, when you've installed that, what you're going to get is under the Extras menu. Let me go ahead and pull up another File Explorer. So I'm going to go back to the SDK. Users, mark, app data, local, Android, SDK. And then under the Extras folder, you're going to see Android, Support, and then there are different levels of support libraries available. We want the V7, which is where AppCompat lives. And so what I'm going to do here, now here's the problem. These libraries, they work with Android Studio, but they're not entirely compatible with Ant. And so what we actually need to do is make a copy of this library and then turn it into something that Ant can use, and then attach to our copy in our project. So I'm going to start by copying this whole folder. Actually, select it and copy this whole folder. And I'm going to go to my Android projects and paste that in. So now I have a copy of the AppCompat library inside of my Android projects, and I want to make this be compatible with Ant. So I'm going to go there, and I'm going to use the Android update command to do that. And Android-H update. Let's see. So this is a library project, and I'm not creating a new one, I'm updating an existing one. So we want update library project. And the options are just basically target and path. So Android update lib project -t, and then that's going to be Android 21 dash, whoops, hit return accidentally, -p dot. Okay, so this did some stuff. Basically, the important part is that it created a build.xml, and this is what Ant is going to need in order to work with this project. So going back to my command line project, I somehow have to tell this project to use this library. And this is a little obscure, but the way you do that is there's a project properties document inside of the project folder, and I'm going to edit that with Notepad. It's just a text file. And here's the magic that you have to add, and I found this by Googling a lot of stuff, but it's android.library.reference.1 equals, and then I give the path from this document up to my AppCompat library. So that would be /AppCompat. And if I got that right, it may work. Let's try it. Okay, so the first time you run it, it's going to go and it's going to build the AppCompat library. And that was all of this stuff here, building the AppCompat library. So that's a good sign. Now we're missing a link to activity main. So I actually forgot to do one thing. Let's go back to our command line. So this activity main, layout activity main, if I go to my layouts folder under resources, I see it's called main here, but it was activity main in my Android Studio version. So here's activity main.xml, but in mine I just have main.xml. Oops, main.xml. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this activity main as well, copy that, and paste it into my layout folder. And I don't think I need this one anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it. Okay, so that actually did some stuff. Now it's linking my program together, resolving references. Ooh, and it built successfully. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our simulator. I'm going to adb install -r and then bin slash, what is it called? Command line debug.apk, and it's installed. So here's my command line app. And it's got the title bar, it's got the options menu, say hello world, and hit send. That works. I have the back button. Great, so this all seems to work correctly. Now, whether you think that was worth the effort or not, I don't know. But now that we've built our AppCompat library in Android projects, we can now use it in any new projects that we create pretty simply just by adding the android.library.reference line to our project properties. So little pain to figure it out in the first place, but not so hard to use after it's taken care of.